Hello and welcome to Reddit No Sleep Theater. As mentioned in my previous video, I'm making this upload as a form of an experiment. I recently came across the dark side of Reddit, which is entitled No Sleep, and in this people post their original scary stories. At first, when reading today's entry, I didn't realize this site was pure fiction and started to get worried about the guy writing his post. After getting to the end, I realized it was all fake, but it did give me the idea to bring the writings here. As stated, this is an experiment to see if you enjoy this series, so let me know if you do. So sit back, keep a blanket close by, and maybe leave a light on or two. Today's story is titled, Someone Keeps Playing Hide and Seek in My House, but I Live Alone, and it is written by JCB119. So before I begin to tell you what has been happening, I need to fill you in on a little background info. When I was young, me and my friends used to love scaring each other with scary stories at sleepovers. One story in particular creeped me out. It was a story that kind of resembled the one about a doll named Lucy. Now usually we put our own twists into it, with a serial killer, a monster, or ghost, whatever as the killer. Either way, it always managed to keep me up at night after hearing it. I even remember one time when I was fairly young, my best friend at the time, Dan, and I were having a sleepover. After retelling the same story, Dan decided to scare the crap out of me. He packed his sleeping bag with pillows and blankets to make it look like he was still fast asleep. He then woke me up by saying, "John, I'm upstairs." He then proceeded to walk down the stairs one by one and say, "John, I'm on the third step," and so on till he got to the bottom, when I eventually found out it was him by smacking his sleeping bag, foiling his plan. Okay, so now this brings me to a few nights ago. I am currently living alone in a very small house, and as I was sleeping, I woke up to the sound of a man moaning. Now this isn't the stupid moan a ghost would do in a cartoon movie. It wasn't a scream, and it wasn't really loud. It started quiet and got louder, with a hair-raising "yeah" sound. Safe to say, it woke me up. But seeing as I was dreaming beforehand, I was not sure if I imagined it or not. Either way, I got up and searched my house a little bit. I'm kind of the paranoid type. Nothing. No one was there. I must have imagined it. The next night, right before drifting off to sleep, I heard the same shuffling sound coming from my basement. The stairs to my basement are really close to my bedroom, so if I turned left outside my room, I could walk downstairs. Then I heard it, clear as day. "Hey." My heart dropped. Who was in my house? I figured someone was robbing the place and had no idea what I should do. Then I heard,
"John, I'm in the basement."
"Who the heck is this and why are they in my house?" Then the voice whispered,
"John, I'm on the first step."
The voice sounded really bizarre. It was a whisper, but the sound almost cut in and out like a recording. The voice sounded like it was constantly out of breath. That was enough for me. I sprang out of bed, grabbed a trophy, the only thing heavy enough and long enough to be a weapon in my room, and I ran to the top stairs. The lights were off, so I could only see the top 5 stairs or so. "Who are you? And what are you doing in my house?" I yelled. I got no reply. I turned on the basement light and ran downstairs, ready to beat the crap out of someone. The jerk must have been hiding. I couldn't see him. I frantically checked all of the possible hiding spots, but no one was there. Eventually, I got up the nerve to go downstairs and check any of the other rooms. When I got to the top of the stairs, I saw that the front door was wide open. Whoever it was probably ran out. I was still terrified, but kind of relieved. Still, I checked every room and made sure the doors were all locked. No sleep for me that night. The next night, this stuff happened again. I woke up to the sound of movement coming from downstairs, and before I could do anything, I heard,
John, I'm on the third step.
I quickly jumped out of bed and grabbed that trophy, turned on the basement light, but before I went downstairs, I noticed something. My front door, back door, and garage door were all wide open. What was happening? I thought. Then I heard coming from the basement again, the very soft whisper of,
John, I'm on the fourth step.
I ran down there screaming profanity and was ready to really hurt whoever this was. Then became more frightened than I have ever been in my life. Again, absolutely no one was in my basement. I closed all the doors, made sure they were all locked, even though I was sure they were before, and checked the rest of the house. I phoned the police, but they told me that they would send a car to look around, but if there was no one in the house or damage to investigate, it would be pointless to come check it out. They told me to call if it happens again. I felt insane. That stupid scary story was constantly on my mind. That's when I thought of Dan playing his dumb trick on me as a kid. And you may be thinking, of course, is Dan playing another trick? Dan has been dead for 2 years. I'd like to say I went and bought a hotel room and stayed there, but stupid me, I didn't. I decided to stay at home and push my luck. And you guessed it. The next night was worse. This was last night, and I tried to sleep but couldn't. So I was lying in my bed, waiting for something to happen. Then finally, it did.
Hey.
Came the forced whisper from the basement. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare at the wall and hope to God the sound stopped.
John, I'm at the top of the stairs.
I waited for about a minute in the silence. Then the voice came again, closer this time.
John, I'm outside your bedroom.
I stared at the wall and hoped I was just going insane. Nothing was there. Nothing was there. I heard the door creak open. I couldn't make myself look. I was in shock or something. The voice said, weirdly calm,
John, I see you.
It sounded like it was right beside my bed. At that point, I had enough. I screamed and launched myself from the bed. No one was in my room. My door was still completely shut. That's it, I thought. I'm out of here. I ran out of the house with just one set of clothes, not failing to notice that all the doors and now the cabinets in my kitchen were wide open. Skip ahead to early today. Now, I didn't really believe in this stuff, but after what I had experienced, I sure do now. But I hired a psychic lady, whatever you call them, who had a Ouija board. We went to my house in the early morning. I wanted her to get rid of whatever ghost thing was doing this to me. The lady, Tanya was her name, was just a normal looking chick. All she brought was a few candles and that Ouija board. We went down to the basement. It still freaked me out. She told me to turn off the lights. I did, and we set up the candles around the board. She did some weird stuff and began to talk to the spirit. She asked it things like, is someone here, and what do you want? I was skeptical to believe it, but I felt the handle thing move, and I sure wasn't doing it. The thing answered back, yes, and JOHN. At this point, I feel like my life is over. I tell her about my old friend Dan, and how I think it could be him, because very few people know about the scary story we used to tell. She asked the spirit if it was mad at me, and if I could do something to help it. There was no answer. This is the part that really freaks me out. She then asked the entity if it was actually my friend Dan. The reply was a shockingly fast movement of the handle to the no indicator. Tanya then asked the thing, "Who are you then?" It simply replied, HATE. Tanya then said she had to go, and she was sorry that she couldn't help more. I immediately left the house, and I am now writing this. I most certainly am not going back tonight. I posted this here in the hopes that someone knows what I should do. I'll repost here if anything else happens. Update. Thank you for all your help. From what has been said, I am sure not going back to my house. However, I said I would update if more happens. Well, more happened. So I bought a hotel room for the night and was feeling pretty pleased with myself. I was still terrified, don't get me wrong. I spent most of my night researching supernatural things like this, yet I still have no idea what is happening, or what I should do. So the hotel I'm staying at is not a 5-star resort. The rooms are simple, and the layout of the place is very basic and old. Worst part is, I got a room on the 6th floor, and the stupid elevator was broken. Luckily I had no luggage to carry up, but it was still a pain to walk up and down those stairs a bunch of times. So here's what happened. It was late, like really late. I was already pretty on the edge from what had been happening to me, and researching demons, ghosts, gremlins, whatever else popped up on my screen. I went to go get something to eat from the vending machine on the 3rd floor. I took the stairs. I bought a whole bunch of junk food and went back into the stairwell. It wasn't particularly dark in the stairwell, but it was pretty creepy. The walls were all painted white and scratched up. It was an old building. I had the weirdest feeling come over me, and that's when I heard it.
John, I'm down here.
That same voice from before. It sounded fairly far away, but I couldn't tell if it was coming from down the stairwell. It sounded so calm, yet the voice sounded so raspy and out of breath. For a second I stood there not knowing what to do, expecting this bloody, demon-bodied monster to poke his head around the corner and chase me up the stairwell. I snapped out of it and started running up the stairs, almost tripping as I went up. When I got in between the 4th and 5th floor, I heard it again.
Hey.
I froze. The voice was coming from up the stairs. It then said to me from maybe one set of stairs up,
John, I'll be in your room.
So, there was no way I was going to go back up there. I ran down to the 4th floor exit, still expecting to see some creature crawling up the stairs at me. It wasn't there, but as I left the stairwell, I swear I heard it say,
John, I'll see you soon.
I spent hours just waiting in that 4th floor hallway, freaked out that whatever it was would come charging down it. Eventually a maid came by, starting her morning duties fairly early. I pretended I was an early riser and walked with her down the staircase when she had to go back down. I checked out of the hotel and convinced one of my work friends to let me stay in their place. Almost all my other friends don't live in the city. I'm okay right now. I managed to take a long power nap, but I can't get the voice out of my head.
John, I'll see you soon.
Update. I just wanted to warn you, things have gotten much, much worse. Seriously, whatever has been messing with me isn't just playing around anymore. So I've been staying at my friend's house the past couple days, and the night before yesterday was actually a good day. Nothing weird happened. I spent the day with my friend. I had a nice supper with him and his wife, and we went to bed early. It was just the normal day I have been waiting for. However, last night was terrible. My life as I know it is over. So, once again, the day was normal. I actually told my friend about what had happened. I could tell he kind of thought I was going insane. He kept saying things like lack of sleep can do crazy things to a person's mind and stuff like that. Either way, it felt good to tell someone. I guess he just told his wife that my house was getting fumigated or something, and that I needed a place to crash for a few days. I stayed up with my friend till around 1:30, and then he said he needed to catch some sleep, and that I should do the same. So I went to bed in their guest room, across the hall from their bedroom. It felt like I closed my eyes for a second, and then all of a sudden, I looked at the clock beside my head, and it was 3:35 a.m. I must have been really tired. However, at that point, something felt off. I felt like everything was in slow motion, and that my body was heavy and groggy. I could barely move. If anyone has ever had sleep paralysis before, it was kind of like that, but I was much more aware of what was happening. Then it spoke.
John, I'm downstairs.
That creepy voice again. It sounded really far away, but I still heard it. I heard a weird scratching sound and then silence for about 5 minutes. The waiting was the worst part. I could feel myself sweating, heart beating, but I couldn't move. My body felt weak and completely sapped of energy. Then the silence was broken. I heard the clanging sound of movement. It was closer than before.
John, I'm in the kitchen.
Then more clanging, then silence. The silence only lasted a minute or two.
John, I'm on the first step.
All I wanted to do was pass out or get up and run. Anything but wait. But I just couldn't move a muscle. I shut my eyes and started shaking.
John, I'm on the second step.
The voice was slow. It seemed like it was mocking me. Each time the raspy voice would speak, it sounded closer and closer, torturing me with seconds of silence while I waited for my worst fears. The calm voice seemed to echo as it got closer. I couldn't even lift my head to look towards the door. I just laid there, head facing the ceiling with my eyes glued shut.
John, I'm in the hallway.
Then silence. I listened for sounds of movement. Nothing.
John, I'm in Jared's room now.
My heart almost jumped out of my chest as I heard the master bedroom door slam shut. I wanted so badly to get up and leave, to yell out for my friends. I was useless. I listened for the sounds of screams, fighting, anything. All I could hear was my own shallow breathing. I tried to calm down and stop breathing so I could hear better. I could still hear breathing, but it wasn't mine. The breathing was very light, like someone slowly gasping for air, and it was coming from inside my bedroom. The door didn't open. How could something have gotten in here? I listened to the breathing for what seemed like a minute. I thought every breath of mine could be my last, and I was about to die. I couldn't tell if it was difficult to open my eyes because of my weakness at the time, or because I didn't want to see what was in my bedroom. The voice spoke one last time.
John, I'm standing at the foot of your bed.
I made myself do it. I opened my eyes to an almost squint. In the darkness, I made out a shape. It was more darkness. If it was possible to see a shadow in the dark, this is what I saw. I only kept my eyes open for about 1 second, but I can't get the image out of my head. It was a shadow of a tall person, skinny, but the head was wrong. It was tilted to the side like someone broke its neck or something. I also noticed that its arms did not rest at its hips like normal. They reached down closer to its knees, like some lanky freak show. I didn't see any eyes. What I did see was its smile. A freakishly white smile peeled back beyond what is usually possible. I felt like vomiting, but as the worst thoughts filled my head, I realized I couldn't move my arms again. The sensations filled my body and I sat up. I looked around the room and no one was there. I didn't waste any time. I got up and ran out of my room. The house was destroyed. Every door, every cabinet, the fridge were open. Every plate smashed. Every table flipped. Wallpaper torn to shreds. It looked like the house had been abandoned for years. I didn't wait to examine the rest of the house, and I was ready to get out of it. I almost left without my friend Jared and his wife. And actually, I wish I had. This is the part I almost left out. Partially because it is just too awful, and partially because I feel that it implicates me in a terrible crime. I went to the master bedroom. I opened the door and saw something terrible. Every inch of the wallpaper in the room was covered in a repeating of 4 words written in blood. They were in no particular order, and they were everywhere. The words were sees, John, watches, and hate. I couldn't see Jared or his wife, but I did see a streak of blood coming from under the bed. Why did I look? Did I think that anything good would be under there? That Jared and his wife would be safe hiding there for me to find? I found them. I lifted the blanket up and peeked my head under the bed. Immediately I was met with the face of Jared and his wife, but they were no longer living. The part that sticks with me the most is the fact that the thing that did this arranged their bodies in a way that their index fingers were up against their lips, as if telling me to be quiet. So now you know why I didn't want to put this in here. If you see this on the news, please remember that it wasn't my fault. I don't know where I can go, but I can't go to prison. There is nowhere to run in prison. What did I do to deserve this? Maybe I should just give up.